Have you ever wondered why walking away feels easier than staying, even when your heart isn't ready to let go? There is a quiet kind of tiredness that comes from loving deeply, not the kind that shows on your face, but the kind that settles in your chest, the kind that makes you question everything, your worth, your choices, your patience. You replay conversations in your mind, searching for clarity, searching for proof that what you feel is real. And somewhere in that silence, a dangerous thought begins to grow. Maybe this isn't love. Maybe it's time to give up, but pause for a moment, breathe. Because not everything that feels heavy is meant to be dropped. You've been taught that love should always feel easy, that if it hurts, it must be wrong, that struggle means failure, but real connection does not arrive without friction. When two lives truly matter to each other, emotions rise, fear shows up, old wounds speak louder. That doesn't mean love is missing. Sometimes it means love is testing whether you are willing to grow instead of run. The truth is, the urge to walk away often appears right before something meaningful deepens. When love stops being a fantasy and starts becoming real, it demands presence. It asks you to be seen. And being seen can feel terrifying. Your mind wants safety. It wants control. So it whispers, leave now, protect yourself, don't risk more pain. That voice sounds logical, but it is not always wise. Look closely at what you're feeling. The confusion, the hesitation, the fear of losing yourself. These are not signs that love is absent. They are signs that love matters. You don't feel this way about something that means nothing. You don't wrestle with walking away from something shallow. The weight you feel is proof that your heart is invested. And here is something important you may have forgotten. Love is not measured by constant happiness. It is measured by consistency, effort, and the willingness to stay emotionally present when things are unclear. Real love doesn't always shout. Sometimes it sits quietly beside you while you're falling apart, waiting for you to notice it hasn't left. If you stay with me until the end, you will begin to see your situation differently, not through fear, not through exhaustion, but through clarity. You will understand why this moment feels so heavy, why giving up feels tempting, and why that temptation does not mean you are weak. You will see the difference between pain that drains you and pain that shapes you. And most importantly, you will recognize whether the love in front of you is something fragile that should be released or something rare that deserves patience. This is not about forcing yourself to stay in something that hurts you. It is about learning how to listen beneath the noise of doubt. It is about recognizing that sometimes the greatest transformations begin at the exact moment you feel like quitting. And if someone truly loves you, that love will not disappear because you are struggling. It will remain quiet, steady, waiting for you to see it clearly. That clarity begins when you stop listening to promises and start observing patterns. Love does not reveal itself in one perfect moment. It reveals itself in repetition, in what happens again and again, even when no one is watching. Words are easy. Anyone can say they care when emotions are high. Anyone can sound convincing in the right moment. But real love shows up when the moment has passed and effort is still there. Your mind may be clinging to a single argument, a single disappointment, a single day that hurt more than you expected. Pain has a way of shrinking your focus until it feels like that moment is the whole truth. But it isn't. When you step back, you begin to see something larger. You begin to notice who stays consistent when life becomes inconvenient, who listens instead of disappearing, who adjusts instead of attacking, who chooses understanding over ego. These are not dramatic acts, but they are powerful. Psychology calls this reliability. The nervous system recognizes it as safety. Someone who truly loves you does not need to be perfect. They need to be present. Presence is the signal your body looks for before your mind understands it. It's why even when you're upset, part of you still feels anchored. It's why leaving feels harder than staying, even when staying requires effort. Your system senses something real and resists letting go. Intensity can be confusing. Passion can feel like proof. But intensity burns fast. Love that lasts moves slower. It is built on small choices made repeatedly, choosing to check in, choosing to explain instead of withdraw, choosing to stay emotionally available even when misunderstood. These choices don't always feel exciting, but they create something far more valuable. Trust. If someone truly loves you, they don't disappear when things get uncomfortable. They don't make you feel disposable. They don't only show up when it benefits them. They may stumble, they may fail at times, but they return, they repair, they try again. This is not weakness. This is commitment in motion. Your fear may be telling you that you are settling, that if love were real, it would feel effortless. But research on attachment shows the opposite. The deeper the bond, the more it activates your old fears. Not because something is wrong, but because something something matters. The brain scans for danger when connection deepens. It wants to protect you from loss, so it exaggerates flaws and magnifies doubt. It urges you to escape before you get hurt. But protection is not the same as wisdom. Wisdom asks different questions, not does this feel perfect, but does this feel sincere? Not am I never hurt, but am I respected even when things are hard? Love that is real does not erase conflict. It creates a foundation where conflict can be faced without abandonment. Pay attention to how this person responds to your vulnerability. Do they dismiss it or do they lean in? Do they blame you or do they seek understanding? Do they vanish when emotions rise or do they stay grounded, even if imperfectly? These answers matter more than how strongly they say they love you. The more you see love as a pattern instead of a performance, the quieter your doubt becomes. And in that quiet, you may realize something powerful. What you are standing in front of is not something fragile that will collapse at the first sign of struggle. It is something steady, asking you to see it clearly instead of judging it through fear. And yet, even when you begin to see that steadiness, something inside you still tightens, a quiet resistance, a voice that says, if I stay, I might lose myself. That voice did not come from nowhere. It was shaped by past disappointments, broken trust, moments where loving fully cost you more than you were ready to give. Your mind learned a rule for survival: attachment equals danger. So now, when closeness deepens, your body reacts before your heart can speak. This is not a flaw in you. It is a protective reflex. The nervous system does not measure time. It does not know that this moment is different. It only knows patterns. When connection begins to matter, it scans your memory for pain and prepares you to escape. That tension you feel, the urge to pull away, is not proof that love is wrong. It is proof that love is activating something unresolved inside you. Psychology calls this an attachment response. But you don't need a label to understand it. You felt it, the sudden urge to shut down, to become distant, to convince yourself you don't care as much as you do. This is how the mind tries to regain control, because caring deeply means risking loss, and risk feels unbearable when you've been hurt before. But here is the truth most people never confront. If you keep running every time fear shows up, fear becomes the one thing you stay loyal to. You don't protect yourself. You reinforce the very wound you're trying to avoid. Each time you leave something real, your mind learns that connection is unsafe, and the cycle deepens. Staying does not mean ignoring your boundaries. It means becoming aware of why those boundaries exist. Are they protecting your values, or are they protecting your fear? There is a difference. Healthy boundaries create space for respect and honesty. Fear-based walls block intimacy before it has a chance to breathe. When someone truly loves you, they don't demand that you be fearless. They don't rush you past your limits. They don't punish you for needing reassurance. They create an environment where your nervous system can slowly relax, where your fear is met with patience instead of pressure. That kind of love doesn't force transformation. It allows it. Notice how your body responds around this person. Not in moments of conflict, but in moments of calm. Do you feel like you can exhale? Do you feel more like yourself, not less? Do you feel encouraged to grow rather than shrink? These signals matter more than the stories your fear tells when it's loud. You are not weak for feeling torn. You are standing at the edge of growth. Growth always feels like this: uncertain, exposed, uncomfortable. Because growth asks you to challenge the belief that leaving is the only way to stay safe. It asks you to consider that maybe, just maybe, safety can also be built through presence. Love that is real will not trap you. It will invite you. It will not erase your independence. It will strengthen your sense of self, because you are no longer spending all your energy protecting your heart. You are allowing it to expand. The question is no longer whether fear exists. It always will. The question is whether fear gets to make the decision for you. Because on the other side of that fear is a chance to experience connection without running. And that chance, when it's real, is rare. And as that fear loosens its grip, another realization begins to surface. The person who truly loves you is not standing in front of you as a perfect figure meant to save you. They are human, learning, trying, showing up in ways that are sometimes quiet and easy to overlook. Love like this doesn't announce itself loudly. It proves itself slowly, through steadiness rather than spectacle. Real love does not demand that you be someone else. It does not shrink when you have doubts. It does not withdraw when you need time to process your emotions. It stays. It adjusts. It remains engaged even when things are uncomfortable. That consistency is not accidental. It is chosen. Again and again, you may have been conditioned to believe that love must feel intense to be real, that butterflies, anxiety, and emotional highs are signs of depth. But intensity often comes from uncertainty, from not knowing where you stand, from chasing validation. True love feels different. It feels grounding, sometimes even unfamiliar, because peace can feel strange when you are used to chaos. Someone who truly loves you listens to understand, not to win. They care about how their actions affect you, even when they don't fully agree. They don't disappear when emotions rise. They stay in the conversation. They may struggle, but they don't abandon the connection. This is not dramatic. It is meaningful. Notice the small things, the way they remember what matters to you, the way they check in without being asked, the way they try to repair after tension instead of pretending nothing happened. These moments may seem ordinary, but they are the foundation of lasting connection. Psychology shows that secure bonds are built on responsiveness, on knowing that when you reach out, someone reaches back. Being loved like this does not mean you will never feel doubt. It means you're not alone facing it. Love is not the absence of fear. It is the presence of commitment despite it. And commitment is revealed not in words spoken during good moments, but in actions taken during difficult ones. You don't have to idealize this person to recognize what is real. You don't have to ignore flaws. Love does not require blindness, it requires honesty. The question is not whether this person is perfect. The question is whether they are willing to grow with you, whether they take responsibility, whether they value the connection enough to work through discomfort instead of walking away. If someone truly loves you, they do not make you feel replaceable. They do not treat your presence as optional. They show you through consistent effort that you matter. And over time, that effort becomes something your nervous system can trust, something your heart can lean into. This kind of love does not drain you. It challenges you, yes, but it also supports you. It does not ask you to sacrifice your identity. It encourages you to bring your full self forward. And when you do, you are met with care instead of control. Allow yourself to acknowledge this without minimizing it, without dismissing it as not enough just because it doesn't match an old fantasy. Real love rarely looks like the stories we were told. It looks like someone choosing to stay present with you, even when it would be easier not to. And that choice made consistently is not something to take lightly. And when you begin to acknowledge that choice, something else becomes impossible to ignore. The cost of walking away too soon, not the dramatic cost people talk about, but the quiet one that settles into your inner world. The cost of reinforcing the belief that love never lasts, that closeness is always temporary, that the moment things get real, leaving is the only safe option. Every time you walk away from something genuine, your mind learns a lesson. It learns that connection is dangerous, that vulnerability should be avoided, that hope must be controlled. This is how self-protection slowly turns into self-sabotage, not because you want to destroy what's good, but because your system has learned to escape before it can be hurt again. Giving up can feel empowering in the moment. It can feel like relief, like taking back control. But relief is not the same as healing. Relief fades, patterns remain. And if you're honest with yourself, you may recognize this pattern. Different faces, different situations, same ending. The moment love asks for depth, you pull away. Not because it isn't real, but because it is. Psychology shows that avoidance strengthens fear. Each time you choose distance over presence, your fear is validated. It grows louder the next time, stronger, more convincing, until one day you are no longer choosing love or leaving it. You are simply reacting to fear on autopilot. And that is not freedom. That is a cage built from old pain. This is not about forcing yourself to stay in something unhealthy. Real love does not ask you to endure disrespect or neglect. It does not demand silence or self-erasure. But when love is sincere, consistent, and rooted in care, leaving out of fear does not protect you. It postpones the very healing you're seeking. There is a version of you that already knows this, a quieter, wiser part that understands that growth requires discomfort, that the only way to experience secure love is to stay present long enough for your nervous system to learn a new story, a story where closeness does not always end in loss, where love can exist without chaos, where staying does not mean losing yourself. Walking away too soon robs you of that possibility. It keeps you loyal to survival mode. It confirms the belief that love must always be chased or escaped, never rested in. And over time, that belief becomes heavier than the pain you were trying to avoid. Staying when love is real is not settling. It is choosing evolution over familiarity. It is choosing to face fear instead of letting fear decide. It is choosing to break a cycle rather than repeat it in a different form. Ask yourself what you are truly afraid of losing: your independence or your comfort with old patterns, your identity or your illusion of control. Real love does not take away your strength. It asks you to use it differently. Not to guard yourself endlessly, but to stand present even when uncertainty arises. If someone truly loves you, they are not asking you to sacrifice your well-being. They are offering you a space to grow beyond your past, to learn that staying can be an act of self-respect, not self-betrayal. That commitment can coexist with freedom. That love does not have to be abandoned the moment it becomes challenging. Before you give up, consider this. What if the discomfort you feel is not a warning to leave, but an invitation to heal something old? What if staying just a little longer is the very thing that allows you to experience love without running? Now, imagine the power that comes from choosing presence over fear, choosing to stay not because you are obligated, but because you are fully aware of what is real. Fear will never disappear completely. Doubt will whisper in the quiet moments. Old wounds will occasionally flare up. That is the human condition. But you have the ability to respond differently, to pause, breathe, and choose connection instead of escape. That is where transformation begins. That is where love becomes something more than a fleeting feeling. It becomes a foundation. When you allow yourself to engage fully, even in uncertainty, you start to reclaim control, not by avoiding risk, but by leaning into it with awareness. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is acting in spite of it. Every step you take toward staying grounded, toward listening instead of reacting, is a declaration that you will not let fear dictate your life. And when you do this consistently, your nervous system begins to relearn. It starts to recognize safety where once it saw only danger. It begins to relax into the connection instead of bracing for pain. Notice how your thoughts shift when you focus on patterns instead of moments. You begin to see the difference between a person who leaves you dangling in uncertainty and someone who chooses you again and again, even imperfectly. You start to understand that real love is not always dramatic, not always grandiose, but it is steady. It is patient. It respects boundaries and values growth. This realization changes the way you interact, the way you interpret actions, and ultimately the way you feel about yourself within the relationship. Self-respect and love for another are not mutually exclusive. In fact, they reinforce each other. When you allow yourself to stay present with someone who consistently chooses you, you are not losing yourself. You are exercising discernment. You are learning to distinguish between fear-driven impulses and truth-driven perception. You are developing emotional clarity, which becomes a skill you carry into every aspect of life. You are no longer reacting to old patterns. You are choosing responses that serve your well-being and your heart. Consider the person who has been quietly showing up for you. Their love is not performance. It does not demand applause or acknowledgement. It simply exists, steady and reliable. And your willingness to remain open to it, even when fear arises, validates that effort. It allows intimacy to deepen naturally without forcing drama or seeking intensity. You begin to realize that love is not about the noise of the moment. It's about the rhythm of commitment. And that rhythm has a language your heart can trust. This is the moment where transformation is available. When fear tempts you to leave, you remember that leaving does not heal you. It reinforces old wounds. Choosing to stay when love is real does not trap you, it empowers you. It teaches you that connection, when nurtured with awareness and care, can coexist with freedom, growth, and respect. It shows you that love is not something to be feared when it is genuine. It is something to be understood, honored, and allowed to evolve every time you take a deliberate breath instead of reacting to doubt. Every time you pause before deciding that running is the only answer, you reinforce a new pattern. You teach yourself that presence can be safe, that trust can be rebuilt, that love, when it is true, endures not because it is perfect, but because it is chosen consistently, even when challenges arise. And in that choice, you begin to feel the quiet strength that comes from aligning your heart with what is real. Now, as you stand in this space of awareness, it becomes clear that staying is not passive. It is not simply enduring discomfort or waiting for someone else to prove their worth. Staying is an active, conscious choice. It is choosing to engage with reality instead of fleeing from it. It is choosing presence over instinct, understanding over assumption, courage over convenience. Each moment you pause instead of reacting. Each moment you allow yourself to feel fully instead of shutting down. You are exercising power. Not over the other person, but over your own life, your own mind, your own heart. True love thrives in the soil of presence. It cannot grow when fear decides the direction. It cannot deepen when avoidance is the default. Your willingness to remain aware, to notice patterns, to respond instead of react, transforms the dynamic entirely. You begin to see that love is not a performance you must chase, nor a prize you might lose. It is a living, breathing force that flourishes when nurtured with patience, honesty, and consistency. And the person who truly loves you will meet you there, not with perfection, but with steady effort, respect, and care. Your fears will still surface. That is inevitable. You will feel uncertainty, and your mind will try to convince you that leaving is easier, safer, smarter. But each time you recognize that urge and pause, you are retraining yourself. You are teaching your nervous system a new language. Presence is safe. Connection is not a trap. Vulnerability is not a liability. Over time, your body, your mind, and your heart begin to align. The tension that once felt unbearable softens. The dread that once seemed convincing loses its grip. You start to experience the subtle, profound reassurance that comes from knowing someone's love is real, consistent, and enduring. Pay attention to how your energy shifts when you approach this connection with intentionality. Do you feel lighter, not heavier when you engage? Do you feel capable, not drained when you allow yourself to respond fully? These are signals that you are moving beyond fear-driven patterns. These are signals that you are learning to act from clarity instead of reaction. When love is authentic, it supports your growth rather than undermines it. It strengthens your sense of self, even as it deepens your bond with another. The person who truly loves you is not waiting for you to be perfect. They are waiting for you to show up as you are, flawed, human, whole. Their commitment is not contingent on your ability to suppress fear or erase doubt. It is rooted in seeing you fully and choosing you regardless. And your willingness to stay, to respond consciously, to allow love to evolve in real time, validates that commitment. It demonstrates the profound truth that love is not a test, it is a partnership. It requires engagement, trust, patience, and courage. Choosing to stay in this space is an act of profound empowerment. It is choosing to reclaim control over your responses, to strengthen your emotional resilience, and to honor what is real rather than what is imagined. Fear is not a signal to leave. Doubt is not a mandate to abandon. Awareness, presence, and conscious action are the keys that unlock the deepest rewards of love. And when you embrace that, when you align your heart with the truth of consistent care, you begin to experience a love that does not consume but expands, a love that does not demand but invites, a love that in its quiet, steadfast way affirms your worth and your capacity to grow. At this point, you begin to realize that love is not a risk to survive, it is an opportunity to grow. Each moment you remain present, each moment you resist the urge to flee, you are reclaiming authority over your emotional world. You are no longer a passenger in the currents of fear. You are steering your heart with intention. That steering is not easy and it is not painless. It requires self-awareness, patience, and the willingness to feel deeply without judgment. But every time you choose to stay, you are building resilience. You are learning that fear can coexist with love without dictating your choices. Notice the subtle shifts in your perception when you do this. You begin to see the person who truly loves you, not as someone who will complete you or fix your past, but as someone who meets you in the present moment, steady, human, and willing. They are not perfect, but they are reliable. They are consistent, not in grand gestures, but in the quiet, everyday actions that signal commitment. These are the moments that matter. These are the signals that your heart has been waiting for. They are the foundation upon which trust, intimacy, and deep connection are built. Your mind may still argue, reminding you of past disappointments, of the times when love failed. That voice is strong because it has survived through patterns of pain. But survival is not the same as wisdom. Real wisdom comes from observing patterns without letting them control you. It comes from recognizing that one person's consistent care is not proof that all love is fragile. It is proof that real love exists and it is capable of holding space for both your fear and your growth. Each time you pause before reacting, each time you choose to trust the consistency of their presence, you are breaking the cycle of self-doubt and learned avoidance. You are rewriting your inner story. When you bring conscious attention to how this love feels in your body, you notice reassurance instead of tension. You notice that staying does not diminish your strength, it reinforces it. You are not surrendering yourself. You are exercising discernment, choosing engagement over escape, understanding over assumption, courage over convenience. These choices made repeatedly become habits. They transform the way you experience love and how you carry yourself in all relationships. Your nervous system begins to relax into trust. Your heart begins to feel the rhythm of steadiness instead of the tremor of fear. The person who truly loves you does not demand that you erase your doubts, suppress your boundaries, or ignore your feelings. They accept your humanity and still choose to remain present. They offer a space where vulnerability is safe, where growth is encouraged, and where connection is nourished with care rather than pressure. This is the kind of love that is rare, quiet, and enduring. It does not seek drama. It seeks partnership. It is the kind of love that asks you to meet it, not halfway, but fully conscious of who you are and who you are becoming. Every choice you make to stay conscious in the relationship, every moment you pause before letting fear take control, strengthens your capacity to experience love without losing yourself. You are learning that being loved does not mean being perfect. It means being chosen, consistently and intentionally, by someone willing to hold space for your growth alongside their own. And when you recognize that, when you align your heart with what is real rather than what is imagined, you unlock a new level of emotional freedom, clarity, and resilience that allows you to fully embrace love in its truest, most empowering form.